Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Championship Sunday beckons at CDL Major 1 here in Boston. 4 teams remain, not the 4 that we were expecting, I'm sure, going into the tournament, but 3 of them almost certainly were. Toronto, OpTic and FaZe all making the Sunday in quite different fashions, it's got to be said. Atlanta FaZe versus OpTic, an absolute banger. OpTic, though, win in big fashion. Their grudge match series against the Seattle Surge. So much drama in many of these series we have to dive into. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Just firstly to mention, just at the end of the day actually, Hex, I don't know who's going to be at this event. I don't think he did either. But yeah, he turned out here for the rest of the weekend. He came briefly on our watch party on the Breaking Point channel. I know a lot of you guys have been tuning in, so we massively appreciate that. And yeah, we kind of hashed out this whole steak dinner thing. If you guys don't know the story behind this, because Dashy's face is in quite a lot of thumbnails over the years, the thing is that at some point I'll pay for a steak dinner for him type thing. So Hex said that yeah, it's on, we'll organise it, and okay, we have to come up with a date and exactly when we're going to do it, but Hex said that he's going to get it working from their perspective, so it's now a matter of getting it to work from our perspective. Probably won't be this event, might do Miami, could do it at Champs. Those are a couple of the options, but just thought I'd mention it for you guys because I know that some have been eagerly anticipating when that may occur. But we have to dive straight into the series of the day because another 5. This was Ravens versus Surge. Surge's respawn is undeniably very questionable. Pretty funny here from Fellow actually. He tries to get into the cheese spot that of course PiLLeY did to them, or PiLLeY did like in the other series, not to them of course, because this is the first time they've played as a team, but he takes a bit of time getting down there, and by the time he gets down there, PiLLeY actually kills him, so thought that was pretty entertaining. They did win the game 1 though, Ravens, pretty impressively, but it's just their search, right? We saw their search was better, like they won a search against Subliners, but still, there are some questions about that game mode for this team, and we saw it on full display today yet again, when it was just terrible to watch them play Search and Destroy. So many opportunities they had wasted. I really disliked the lack of patience they displayed. There were so many occasions where they had, you know, a blood, or they had an advantage, and they just didn't relax, take it easy, you know, play as a team. That, if you watch FaZe play Search, that's what they're very good at. They get an advantage, and they consolidate that advantage as best they can. They will play, they'll be in a 2 versus 1 or something, they won't just go, they'll chill, they'll wait, they'll use their time, they'll play for information, then they'll group up and make a play together, and you know, that separates the great S&D teams from the teams that play like a team of individuals, which is basically what Ravens look like in Search and Destroy. Even this round, where Huke got exposed and like he really should have got a kill there. This is a 4v3. They lost this round, I'm almost certain. So not a good side for Ravens. They did, however, somehow win this control. I thought this control was over. PiLLeY makes a great play, gets through the back here. aBeZy eventually goes down, and Ravens make a phenomenal break here on the offense. Like, Invasion Control is getting better and better to watch, which is kind of remarkable to say because I thought that it was a bad map, and I still don't think it's great. But teams, I feel now, have confidence they can actually win offenses, which was not the case previously. I know that Turtle said in our chat that the win percentage used to be like 17% here. It's now something like 22% on offense, which is not significantly greater, but it's, you know, in the matter of a couple of weeks, that's a lot of offensive rounds that have been won here on Invasion, and it feels like teams believe that it's not just going to be a defense-heavy slogfest, that they can break the point and actually win, which is what Ravens do right here. What was unforgivable, however, was how they lost the map for Hardpoint on the Invasion yet again. So again, they were concerned with Surge. Huke might have popped a couple of pumps too many on one of the occasions. There was other things that they were pulling out, like Surge I don't think can go a series without being linked to potentially breaking gentlemen's agreements, which is, yeah, not great. And as a result, the fan base was massively against them, right? I don't think, especially the OpTic Surge series, like that is probably the most hostile environment we have really seen. There was even rumors after this series. I didn't see any of this. So if you guys did, feel free to let us know in the comment section or tweet to me or something. But apparently there was like fights breaking out in the crowd. I wasn't in the crowd, so I didn't know. But there were rumors going around that there was like, people in the venue, I'm sure, saw this stuff if it actually happened. But we were up on floor 3, so I didn't see it. But apparently, like, after this series, you know, some Surge guys, some OpTic guys got into it, I don't know, but that was a toxic environment, and basically because the crowd hated Surge this series, this entire day, not just because of breaking GAs, but also for other things that I guess we'll have to get into now. But this was unforgivable. Ravens were actually up in this one, 228 to like 155. They had the full P4 rotation. PiLLeY goes massive, gets a ridiculous 3-piece to break it. And then all of a sudden breaking P4, then Surge also have the P5 spawns, which they then lock down. But Ravens, all they've got to do is just hold the P1, which they get broken on. 3 of them flood through the same door. And Ravens eventually lose this map and it goes map 5. Like, this was a tragic way to lose because Ravens, after winning so many hard points in a row and looking really good in the game mode, like genuinely really good, they went game 5 against a Surge team that just loves winning game 5s. And that's exactly what they did. They lose the game 5 Ravens. Again, making similar mistakes at the terminal. Again, there was some frustrating rounds on their side. And I feel bad for the boys because they've definitely improved a lot. I think they played better than their top 8 placing suggests, really. But it's just S&D wins championships and S&D most certainly loses you championships. And that was the case here with Ravens. So lots of positives to take, but I think that they will definitely feel they could have got at least top 6 this event. And who knows how their respawn would have fared against OpTic, because we know that that's pretty good in the very next round. This, though, was the drama. And, we obviously have to address some of this stuff just because, well, all the pros were tweeting about it, so we have to mention it, is that exactly what was going on with PiLLeY after this series, right? Because I don't know why they let him do the interview, because PiLLeY comes out after this series and is clearly kind of out of it in whatever way you want to say. And, well, I don't think anyone really has any doubt as to what might potentially be going on here. We saw the other day there were clips going around of PiLLeY online when he was adjusting his glasses, people said, by moving his eyes left, right and centre in a rather interesting way that could be explained by a couple of different factors. But one main one potentially being what some pros have called being on the bean, as has been mentioned for some time. And it's always a problem here in the esport from time to time. And look, certain players have a prescription for certain things based on certain conditions, but theoretically there is meant to be testing done from the league side so that this type of stuff is not gone to a certain level, because some of these things that may or may not be used are certainly not good for the health of certain players. And if I was if I was Huke, if I was Arceus, if I was anyone on this team, I would be concerned. Like, if PiLLeY got pulled over at a stoplight or whatever by the cops, by the police, and was like that, they ain't letting him drive home. Like, there's no chance. So yeah, I thought it was shocking. Personally, people were starting to call him PiLLeY, which I thought was absolutely outrageous. But I mean, incredible scenes. And as Zero says, like, never let PiLLeY do the interview again. Like, it was the same thing yesterday after his series that they won in the losers bracket, the first match they played against Boston. Like, he got interviewed by Gersh, and he was in an interesting spot, and I spoke to him briefly afterwards, and yeah, I couldn't really get like a proper answer out of him. It was not great. And as Simp says, this interview is comedy, and even Attack says, like, you were straight locked in, right? So all the pros were commenting on this and maybe not going so far to say what they actually thought about the matter, but I think that was one of the reasons why there was well, additionally some concern from the fans about supporting the Seattle team. But in the end, PiLLeY had a dominant series. Like, PiLLeY played unreal this entire tournament from him. He had a great series here against the Ravens and was one of the key reasons why they ended up getting the victory. OpTic versus FaZe, though, what a match this was. And this is what, after map 4, I said it really, this is what it's meant to be like this season. When these rosters formed at the start of the year, this is what we were meant to see. OpTic, FaZe, Ultra, potentially New York as well. It should have been, really. They weren't here this tournament past the Friday. Battling like this on main stage every event. We expect these type of teams to dominate the worst teams in the league, as we've seen so far this season. But when you get these big matchups, we expect bangers. And as soon as FaZe came to the stage, immediately it was kind of a different level of competition that OpTic are up against compared to what we'd seen on the stage in the previous series. But OpTic play a great sub-base. I'm somewhat surprised they avoided sub-base so far. Like, on paper, OpTic should be really good at this map. Like, it makes a lot of sense for this team. I don't know why they've avoided it so far, but they played here against FaZe. It was a close map, actually, but in the end, OpTic pulled away the final set of rotations. But it was the search and destroy here that OpTic will really have to think about going into the championship Sunday. We know they had S&D concerns right at the start of the season, but FaZe are so clinical. OpTic had some really cool ideas today. There were some great bait and switch setups. There were some really cool, like, hard counters that OpTic performed. But in the latter half of the games, they ran out of ideas. FaZe were a little bit stronger. And they came back to, absolutely dominate in the search and destroy category. They won, 4 rounds in a row in the game 2, and then they 6-2'd the final game. So in the search and destroy department wasn't particularly close. And I think, OpTic will look at that FaZe S&D situations back, and they'll just say, okay, look, they just played way more disciplined when they had a life advantage. They made less mistakes than OpTic did, and that was the difference maker in the end. But OpTic still, right? I mean, they go into the control, they had a good chance there. this high-rise control, we saw 2 offensive masterclasses from FaZe and OpTic respectively, but FaZe are really good at this map on high-rise. I wonder what OpTic will do if they play them again tomorrow, which they could well do, potentially, depending on how the rest of the tournament goes, with this, control game, and what will they do with the vetoes? I'm interested to see, because, yeah, Drazah went off this map, and he turned up big time as he did in the final Search and Destroy, but, wow, this Game 4 was the map of the season so far, absolutely. This was like the mixiest Game 4 that should even be possible on Invasion. Like, P5 usually is pretty, one team holds it. This time, they were both trading blows over at P5, and then they had to rotate back to P1. It looks like FaZe had it. Shotzzy comes in and gets 1, and Kenny goes absolutely huge here to win the game for OpTic. Dashy had a bit of a stinker, by the way, as well. We'll discuss that in a second. But at this point, you've got to think it's over. Kenny, however, like, in so icy, gets 1, gets 2, spins around, gets the 3rd as well. Pred then trades out Simp. Kenny gets 1 more coming off spawn, and that's GG. Like, insane map of Call of Duty. The best I've seen so far. I'm sure the atmosphere in there was absolutely electric behind, within the stage. Incredible map of Call of Duty. And it's a shame for OpTic that after all of that, they just lost the Search and Destroy, and it wasn't especially close. FaZe did make mistakes, like this round where aBeZy, I don't know where he's going, he's got the bomb. Maybe he had a feeling Dashy was there and wanted to challenge him, but even then, Drazah comes around the corner and gets shot in the side. So that was the chance for Dashy, clutch a nice little 1v2 with a difficult series to make a bit of a run, but didn't happen. FaZe, too good in Search. OpTic, definitely leaving a bit to be desired. I would have wondered, like, what would have happened had, OpTic played Carolina. The big drama, though, of this map was for sure, was the very first round when aBeZy was first blooded by Pred, and, it happens. Then he respawned. He actually just undertaked straight back into the map. And, that is clearly a wrong rule set. So they had to restart the game and go again. Now, clearly this, and Pred then got first blooded the next round. So if I'm Pred, I'm kind of checked, right? Because I've just first blooded this guy, game 5. Now I've got to do a whole reset, and I'm going again, and I get blooded. Like, that's going to check you out a fair bit. And I'm sure OpTic were like, hang on a second, how did you guys get the rules wrong? Apparently, as Karma said, that they told them that there was a bug where the respawns were enabled, which I'm pretty sure, okay, it could be a bug in 1 in a million potential circumstances, but the reality is they got the rules wrong. It's happened before. It happened in that series like Surge played when they went into P1 and like P1 wasn't active yet on Invasion Hardpoint. They have to set up the settings. Sometimes they get it wrong. They got it wrong in this case, and obviously not good for OpTic the way it turned out, but don't pretend to Damon Karma Barlow that's won 3 championships that it was a bug in the game. Like, I think you got the rules wrong, guys. I would say that's far and away the more likely possibility. But OpTic go down. Of course, FaZe, a nice little treat here, like who's going to get scapegoated this season, but look, OpTic played well in this series, right? I hope this isn't a tournament for OpTic where they go away thinking, well, if just our Search and Destroy was better, we would have won. Like, I think they do need to, I think they can take a step up in that regard for Sunday. But, they knew since week 1, really, that their Search and Destroy was a problem. And, here they are looking maybe slightly behind the curve. But in the respawn modes, and I also will say about the series, like, I don't think we've seen energy like this from OpTic so far this season. This is where OpTic will come to play, I think, all year. Like, online, with a Kenny team, it is what it is. But when you go to LAN, the energy in this series from OpTic and the listenings was completely different to what we saw online, and that's where this team is going to thrive, I think. Now, Dashy had a really rough series here. Sure, Shotzzy had less damage, but Dashy had a 0.7, and Cell had a 1.3. And usually, this type of matchup is Cellium's, Cellium gets smoked by Dashy is typically, okay, you never get smoked, but Dashy has a great record against Cell. That's now 2 in a row. Simp, though, was the key factor. I mean, he's just unbelievably good. We've talked a lot about who's the best player in the game. There are a few candidates. Simp has got to be right up there, if not the very best, because 100 kills, almost double Dashy's kills in some respects, most damage in the lobby, absurd. Their opponents then tomorrow in the winners finals will be Toronto Ultra. I don't really have that much to say on this series because it was a bit of a pack watch. Ultra just came in and smoked him. Okay, the maps were close, but I feel like Ultra always had the edge, especially in the search and the control. Map 1 was legitimately close, but Envoy made a great couple of plays at the end. Awakening played great this series as well. I will say he turned it around big time on LAN, which is great to see because he was the one that I was most concerned about. But Vivid did have a shocker here, really. I mean, Accuracy didn't have a good series either, but Vivid, especially that game 1 Skid Row, Vivid was top P2 on the rotation to P5. He died with no kills. That pretty much lost them the game. The Karachi search and the invasion control, Ultra actually trolled a little bit, right? I think that they're so confident that when they play a team that they know they're better than, they just throw a little bit. I think when they play FaZe tomorrow, Ultra will tighten up. And I think I have Ultra winning that series because In Search and Destroy, I think it can go either way between those two teams. And Ultra, I think their respawn is better right now. So right now, I think Ultra are my tournament favorites, but I still kind of have no idea. Rocket dropped down to losers. We'll discuss their series with Los Angeles Guerrillas tomorrow, but we have to mention, of course, the final series that we're going to cover in this video, OpTic versus Seattle Surge. A grudge match for so many reasons. They played online, but, you know, this is a Seattle that the whole community hates over the whole GA stuff and, you know, over the PiLLeY stuff and all this stuff that's been happening. And also, it's PiLLeY and Huke on OpTic over the last couple of years. It's Rambo, you know, formerly there, versus Dashy versus Karma, right? Even Rambo and Karma, when they were players, they had their fair share of beef back in the day, and that's now a coach rivalry. So the issue is for Surge, their respawn is just not good at all, and you know, OpTic just came to play. Again, they play sub-base, finally, don't know why OpTic have been avoiding it, and Pred and Kenny both went massive. Pred dropped 40, he could have had 41 here. He had an insane takeover map. Watching Pred play this map reminded me of watching Bakaj Pred, I'll be straight up, from back in Vanguard. He also had an AR in his hand as well, which you don't typically see, but Pred and Kenny, like Kenny had like 39 in 25, just absurd slaying, and OpTic take the game 1. The crowd as well, you know, the FU PiLLeY chants were coming through. It was kind of wild. It's interesting, right? Like, some players probably think that after they leave OpTic, they'll always be, you know, remembered fondly by the fan base. That is definitely not always the case, right? But in the Search and Destroy, again, it's PiLLeY and the Surge that win it. So, okay, Terminal Search, you would probably favour Seattle in that one theoretically, but, you know, you got to think that OpTic have got to win a Search and Destroy at some points, because I thought Ravens were going to 3-1 Surge, but they lost to Respawn and therefore they got beaten game 5. If OpTic had lost to Respawn here, they would have been in some peril. But, yeah, they win the control. They actually had a very impressive offensive round, I think, here, OpTic, to win that, and they dominated their last defense to take it to a game 4, and the game 4 was not close at all. This was a Terminal hardpoint masterclass from OpTic. A map mode combination where Seattle Surge looked great at the start of the game, but you know, Shotzzy played great here. Dashy actually turned up big time on this final map of the series as well, so, you know, Dashy knows that he's got to play better tomorrow if they want to go further, and as he says, I'll be better tomorrow, appreciate all the support. But OpTic knock out Surge, and they move on in the tournament to the Championship Sunday. So these were the numbers from that one. Dashy, Pred, Kenny, all with great series. Shotzzy doing kind of what you needed of him, really. He didn't have a great map 1, but it didn't matter. I will also say Arcetes, you know, my big question about this team, and I know that PiLLeY had a bad series here as well, but if I'm Surge and I'm considering a change, they've placed top 6, which is pretty good on paper, but I don't know if they really played that well. Like, they relied on a Game 5 win against Boston, a Game 5 win against Ravens, two very poor Search and Destroy teams as it presently stands, to even get this far. And then when they played OpTic, you know, they got crushed really in the respawn mode. It wasn't even close. If I'm thinking of making a change, Arcetes has got to be one to consider, right? At the end of the day, I think aBeZy has been looking better and better most series he's played. He's better suited to an AR. PiLLeY's frying on the AR. Arcetes isn't really there. Like, if you put an SMG in for that position, it's at least something to think about. So lots of the teams that went out have to consider what they're going to do going forwards, because there's only so many top challenger players that you can sign when many teams will be looking to, but I'm sure that's a topic for the coming days. But that's all that we've got time to cover today. It's a very long video. Thanks for all for watching. Thanks to all of you who I met in person at the venue today as well. It was absolutely fantastic meeting all of you. Great community, as I say every single video. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. All that good stuff. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.